This is Anime Ricochet. Hello, everybody. This is Anime Ricochet, the premier anime podcast of the Nerd Blaze. My name is Jeff, and with me, as always, is a man who always chooses the wrong waifu. His name is Jacoby, aka Kobe. Welcome to the show, Kobe.
I feel like that's such a sharp barb in my direction. I mean, I don't think I always choose the wrong waifu. I think I always choose the right waifu. You sound so much hatred toward me already, starting off 24 seconds in.
I just thought, throwing a little joke there. It's just a little joke, Kobe. You don't always choose the wrong waifu. Maybe in this one you did.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Well, we don't usually discuss waifus. So yeah, it was an unfair jab. I apologize. I thought it would make the people laugh, but I guess it was too sharp. You're right. So speaking of wrong waifus, we released an episode discussing a certain sports anime, and we basically rated and sorted the girls from best to worst. And what anime was that, Kobe?
That was the anime of Hanebado! ! The hit, beautifully styled badminton anime that aired this season.
That's right, Hanebado. And, well, don't you know it? It's the anime that we're going to be talking about in this episode of Anime Ricochet. So yeah.
And boy, were we wrong. In our video, we like to take like a rundown. We tried to guess all these girls' personalities. I don't think we were close on any single one of them.
Absolutely not. And I guess that's a good thing, because I was surprised by what we got. But was I pleasantly surprised? I guess you'll have to listen to find out. So, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. As always, we begin with an overall discussion of the anime itself. Hanebado, also known as the badminton play of Ayano Hanasaki, or Hanebad! ! Is a Japanese sports manga series written by Kosuke Hamada. And Kosuke Hamada has written about 3 published manga before this, so he's not exactly a storied author or anything like that, but you don't have to be to make good manga. The manga was released in 2013, and it is still ongoing. So far, there's 13 volumes. The anime came out in July 2nd, 2018, and it ended, wouldn't you know it, today, even though the Crunchyroll episode came out yesterday. But yeah, today was the day, October 1st. There were 13 episodes, and the studio that handled it was Liden Films, which I don't really know much about Liden Films.
Do you know, did they do anything else?
Yeah, looking through the stuff that they're known for, I don't really recognize any of it. I do recognize Berserk, which was the 2017 adaptation of the manga series. I think that was the bad one. I remember there was a Berserk animation that was critically panned, essentially. And I think it was for the animation style, but also the story. I don't know. I don't really know much about it. I just hear that it was bad. And that's the only thing that I really recognize from the list of their works. So, yeah. Oh, there's also Killing Bites. I think...
they did Killing Bites? It was the new one. That one came out this season. It premiered on Amazon. I watched that. It was awesome.
Yes, that was the one that our good friends over at Anime Dumpster Dive reviewed.
Yeah, shout out to them. Thank you for putting me on that.
Shout out to them. I'm still waiting to talk about Chihai Furu. Anyways.
It's going to happen.
So yeah, that's pretty much it about this anime. Like I said, it just came out, so really there's not really a consensus on whether or not it's good, but we are here to decide that for you. So, welcome to the podcast again. So yeah, that's basically the broad strokes of the anime. And now let us discuss the characters. That's usually the first thing we do after we discuss the actual show itself, because as we all know, the characters are the bedrock to any anime.
Well, first, can I give you a brief synopsis of the show?
Oh, yeah, let's do that first.
All right, the synopsis of the show. Ayano Hanasaki, a first-year student at Kaganawa Prefectural Kitaka-machi High School, probably butchered that, has badminton ability, able to surpass others effortlessly, yet avoids playing the sport. She meets Nagisa Aragaki, a third-year student who practices day and night, aiming to become the best player in Japan. Encouraged by her coach, supported by club colleagues, and fired up by various rivals, the two engage in their youth and adored sport so thrilling, like a shuttle flown at high speed.
Huh, that
I
was
feel like it's a
beautiful.
translation at the end that didn't quite carry over. But it's thrilling like a shuttle flown at high speed. Because shuttles are what's used in badminton.
Yeah, I think it's called a shuttlecock.
Yeah, shuttlecock. We're
Funny.
we're funny.
Dicks.
All right, so obviously the main character of that is Ayano Hanasaki. So, what are your first impressions of Ayano?
Right, so when we did that character breakdown, rating, sorting video, I predicted that she'd basically be a character that was a fledgling of the sport, but was very enthusiastic about it and ready to play some goddamn badminton, and we would see her growth and her ability and all that stuff. But it was actually the reverse of that. This character is pretty much the opposite of what we predicted. She's actually one of the best badminton players around, and at the beginning of this series is very reluctant to play badminton, which is not it's not, the reasons why are not entirely revealed off the front gate. That's part of the big mystery of the show is why does she hate badminton? And you kind of learn about that as the series progresses. Sure enough, though, she eventually joins the badminton team because if she didn't, there wouldn't be a sports anime. But yeah, she's on the badminton team. I guess part of her personality that we might have gotten right is that she's kind of like a sweet, bubbly girl, although we are only partially right because about halfway through the series, she makes a complete 180 turn and her character becomes something completely different. And I don't want to spoil that, but I do want to put that here so that anyone who's listening to the non-spoiler section that might be interested in watching this knows that ahead of time, because I think that might be interesting to know. Whereas
we'll get into her character more and her journey in the spoiler section.
Yeah. So yeah, in the beginning, she's kind of a generic character, but as the series goes on, she is more interesting, and I can't give away what my feelings about that development are without spoiling anything entirely. But
let's just say I think she has layers. There's stuff you got to peel back to her.
She has layers, and I will say that I do not like her.
Okay.
Kobe?
What about I like this was one of the most interesting sports anime protagonists we've ever seen because let's move on from her because I want to talk more about her in depth without spoiling a whole lot. So let's actually move on from her.
Okay, that's fine. Completely fine.
Let's move on to the other one.
Yes, the other one, which is Nagisa Aragaki. Tell us about Nagisa.
Well, she's a third year, and she is the hard worker. She's the one in the sports anime who trains night and day to be the best no matter what. And she's kind of hurt by this world around her because there are others who have so much talent, but she doesn't have natural talent. She only has the hard work in order to get up there. So she has to learn why she likes playing badminton and find motivation to keep going to play badminton, even though she's not one of those just naturally talented people. She's one of those who has to work for it with all of their might every day and night in order to be good.
I mean,
that puts her at odd with Ayano because Ayano has such natural talent.
But I think that's only partially true because she does have the physical talent for it off the get-go. One of her hang-ups, at least in the beginning of this show, is that she is very tall, and she's pretty powerfully built as far as high school girls go. So that kind of gives her a natural edge and advantage. But yeah, she does work hard, and I think also the fact that she works really hard and is still overshadowed by other people who do not have the natural advantage that she has is what really is kind of going against her grain, so to speak, when it comes to the sport of badminton. It grinds her gears. But yeah, well, what?
So between the two, who do you like more?
I do like Nagisa more. I saw her more of she was more of the classic protagonist to actually root for, but I only like her by a small margin. I think as far as sports anime characters go, she's still fairly shallow, and I just wish there's more to her. Again, I don't know how much I can really say other than she's clearly not as developed as Ayano is, and yet I still find her more likable.
Because I think she is supposed to be. I think she's the protagonist. I think you can make the case, even though Ayano is like names in the synopsis and his face is on the cover. I think Nagisa is really the true protagonist of this story.
I think she's definitely the hero. I would say, yeah, she has her own arc, I guess you could say, but it's largely solved within the first few episodes, and then after that, much of the focus shifts over to Ayano. Um, and after that, Nagisa kind of gets a little bit more drama to her character, but essentially, I don't. She is the hero, but I don't know if she's actually the protagonist because a lot of the show's time is spent on Ayano. But
Yeah.
anyways, what do you think? Who do you like more?
Um, I actually like them both. I liked what Ayano kind of her trajectory, even though I don't maybe necessarily agree with it all the way. I found that more interesting to watch than Nagisa throughout the anime. I thought that Ayano had more personality, but Aragaki was a great foil for her and a great just center mass of this anime to like always just to always stand behind, to like always to root for. I knew she was the center of this, and I knew I could always get behind her.
Cool. I mean, the other thing I wanted to note as well is we predicted that there would be like this pairing and this rivalry in the show that is reminiscent of a lot of other sports animes where you have one person who's really fiery and then one person who's really cool, but they kind of go at each other, but I actually also complement each other really well. Now, Ayano and Nagisa are rivals, but I'm not sure if they don't if they complement each other well. At least not in the sense of that and sports anime trope of hot and cold, because they're both definitely passionate about the sport, and they're not outright they don't outright fit those molds of the characters. I would say perhaps that they have more subtlety than the overall than general sports anime protagonists who are rivals, and I guess that's a plus going for them.
Yeah, I want to come back to this point in the spoilers 'cause I think this actually warrants a good discussion. Because I don't think it's not a spoiler to say at the end. I think the show really like literally beats you over the head by saying like these two characters are reflections of each other. So I think in the spoiler section we can actually open up the discussion to actually try to pin that down and see if they actually are reflections of one another.
Sounds good. I'm excited.
All right, let's move on to some of the awesome side characters of the show.
Okay, so the awesome side character number one is Riko Izumi, and she's also a third year in high school and is the team's vice captain. Nagasa's captain. Riko is basically her right hand girl. Riko, I thought was going to be a bit more reserved and cool headed, and she is more cool headed, but she's not as reserved as I thought she was going to be. She, in my opinion, is the best character of the show. Mostly because of how supportive she is, and I really rooted for her. I think she's really the glue, I think, and the soul of the team, the one that tries to encourage other people, and is always there for Nagisa, who is, I think, better than Ayano. And I was surprised. I think I was surprised by how much I ended up liking her, because to me, I think she's really the only likable character.
She is. I think she absolutely is the best girl. And what I like about her is that she's kind of like Aragaki, is that she puts in a lot of hard work, but she's still just not as good as her. So she does represent the side that's like you put in hard work for the sport, but she's also not very good. Like, well, not all these players are really really good and could cream us any day of the week, like by far, blindfolded, one handed. But she's still not up to like a really solid professional level, and she knows that even though she works really hard. But you're right, she does always support those around her, and she always does it with a smile. There's a great kind of running thing with her character that like whenever she's like stressed out, she's worried about something, and then someone will come up to her, there'll be a moment where she pauses and she'll turn to them smiling like there's nothing wrong at all. And she does this like multiple times with like her like four like siblings, with Aragaki, throughout, a lot of the characters through that, she shows this ability to always put on like a really brave face, like no matter what, and to always be supportive, even though she's struggling herself. So I think she's rad.
Yes, she is best girl, and I feel sorry for putting her near the bottom of the list. I think I put her near the bottom of the list. I don't remember anymore, but she seems like the kind of girl that would be at the bottom of the list for me. Anyways, yeah, Rico is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard not to discuss these characters without spoiler section, so I guess we'll just give a rundown. Let's talk about Connie Christensen.
All right, so Connie Christensen is one of the I consider antagonists slash villains of the show, and I can't really get too much into her backstory. Again, the spoiler section is going to be packed with more discussion about these characters, but essentially, she is the foreign exchange student prodigy that you come to expect in some of these sports animes. Usually, when there's a foreign exchange student, they're usually really fucking good because they came out of their country all the way to Japan, not for no reason. So she is that character, and with that comes an air of. It comes with some arrogance, some haughtiness, and I think because of that, she would have been an interesting antagonist that maybe I would have even liked. But again, she falls under the category of I don't like this character because of a specific reason that happens in the show. So I put her on the same side of the fence as Ayano.
See, I like the trope of that, the foreign exchange student who's really good and is an antagonist. It's interesting because that's what she's first presented as. But I think as you get to know Connie, she's not bad. I think she's really she's the hero of her own story, and she's not, and she wants a very specific, genuine, pure goal that's not rooted in any malice or hate. She wants something really, nice. And even though she's first presented as the protagonist or as the antagonist, she really is not, and that's why I kind of liked Connie, because of how it kind of subverted that expectation, which again, of course, we'll dive into later in spoilers. But I think Connie had more to her than I first initially expected from her first appearance, and as these characters kind of grew and evolved throughout it, their priorities shifted, and we learned more about them and what they wanted. And Connie was one of those who started off not very interesting to me, but then grew to be interesting and in my opinion, sympathetic. But we'll discuss that more.
All right, we will discuss that more because I disagree. Okay, so since we're talking about antagonists, let's talk about the other one. Her name is Kaoroko Saragaya. And Saragaya is an old rival of Ayano during their middle school days. And she's a part of another school. And she is also incredibly, extremely good. She is, I think, maybe the secondary rival of Ayano, mostly because a lot of Karoko's motivation is actually beating Ayano, and so she is more deliberately out to get Ayano in a way that is not, I guess, not as.
She's straight up bad. She wants to beat her.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing really deeper.
I'm trying to say,
her.
yeah, she's more malicious than Nagisa. Let's just say she's the bad one. She is the villain, I think, or at least one of the villains. I think there's multiple villains in this show, but she's definitely one of them. And again, when she was first introduced, they usually had this weird music playing in the background, or not weird, but kind of like blaring trumpets and stuff that was kind of made her interesting and energetic. And I was actually really excited to meet this character. But as the show went on, again, there is a specific moment in her life that we will discuss later that made me hate her guts. And to me, just made her completely unsympathetic. And I think there are more than one characters in the show that are unsympathetic, but she is definitely near the top of that list.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a running theme you have so far, that all these characters start off with potential, then one moment just completely changes everything for you.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's mostly because the anime doesn't really rectify that moment, and I don't really even know if they wanted to, and that's completely fine. But that just means that the way that they were characterized is not for me at that point anymore, and they make them unlikable. So, yeah.
Okay. Are those all the side characters we want to talk about?
Well, what did you think of Karoko?
She was there. She was. I mean, I liked her commentary, and I liked the presence she had in the first episode. Like when she bust onto the scene, and I don't know what is the third episode or so. Whenever she came, I was like, oh, this is the bad guy. This is the one that we're gonna have to take down in the end in a final match. but then as it progresses, like it's not that. The story changes into something a little different. So I mean, she's fine. I think out of everyone we've talked about so far, she's my least favorite. But I mean, I have a genuine like for all these characters, most of them, because there's something a little more to them than just stock type individuals. They're flawed in a really troubling way. A lot of them flawed in kind of an unlikable way. But she's just near the bottom of the list.
Right, so there are other characters in this show. Notably, there is Erina. She's basically Ayano's Rico. She's basically her best friend and right-hand woman in that sense. She's the manager of the team, but really don't get that much screen time for her to warrant a discussion. And then, of course, there are other side characters that are kind of the same way.
We have one because there's actually like a love kind of plot, like a side plot of this from Hugh. Is that her name?
See, that is one of the... I was going to say, there are characters in this show that I don't think add anything at all to the overall storyline or the plot. And I think if they let those characters go, then the show would have been a lot stronger. But we can talk about those characters if you want.
Yeah. No, let's get that in spoilers because it's not really super important.
All right. So yeah, those are the characters. Now, this is a sports anime, so we like to talk about how the actual sport was handled in the show. The sport in question is badminton. So Kobe, did this show make you want to play badminton?
No, badminton looks like a grueling, unfun thing that's gonna destroy my life if I play it.
Yeah, it'll make you depressed. It'll break you down.
I mean, it does look kind of like energetic and fun. I mean, it looks like tennis, but with like just you're moving much faster. And did you want to play badminton after this?
No, not really. I wanted to play badminton before this, and I'm not going to say this show totally drained everything all the desire I had to play badminton. But it definitely didn't help in making me want to play it more.
It just looks so grueling, man. Like even in Prince of Stride, the running parkour anime. I don't like running, but it's like, man, that kind of is cool with like obstacles and like maybe that'd be fun to dive over. Like this is just,
yeah. And I think part of it is the way that they frame the sport in the actual show itself, because the sport is a source of great pain for a lot of these characters. It's an obstacle to overcome. It is the vehicle of which one person wants to use to better themselves or become better than someone else. It is a source of bad memories. Yeah, badminton is not framed as a sport to really love until near the end when they kind of rectify that. But up until that point, yeah, it's a lot of grueling training, but also emotionally, it is not a happy thing to do. But yeah, in terms of us actually watching the sport, the animation for these badminton players was fantastic. It was.
Oh yeah, that's obviously the highlight.
Yeah,
here is the animation is probably the best animation we've seen from any show. I think that's arguable.
Yeah, the movements and the fluidity of these characters as they're rallying the shuttlecock back and forth were basically photorealistic. It's like I feel like they just really did their homework on how exactly these characters move. There's a lot of subtlety, and also the way they framed it as well made the badminton seem not only realistic but also very cinematic and exciting to watch.
Yeah, they had a real grit to them too. Like you would think about a badminton sport with all these girls in uniforms would be trying to make them look good, but they really got, they're sweaty, they're down and dirty, they're grunting, they got tears, they look like hulks, like trying to hit the shuttlecock back and forth. I mean, it's not like a flattering sport like at all, or a graceful sport at all. You really have to dig down deep and just destroy the other person.
Yes, although they don't shy away from fan servicey moments. So if you,
There was one, I would say one moment, and I was thinking about this before. There's one big fan servicey moment where it's like in a bathhouse, and then
of
like
course,
the way I pictured it was just like because it happened like in the third episode where all these characters are in a bathhouse and they're naked, and like
hmm
I imagined whoever was making the show like a big wig was just like, yeah, the animation is this good. You bet your fucking ass we're having a bath scene. It's the only thing with this thing. You can do whatever you want with the badminton stuff, and then they're just like, we're putting that in because this animation is just amazing.
I mean, it's not just the bathhouse scene though. There are kind of subtle fan servicey bits. Let's just say characters are framed in ways that they did not need to be framed,
Yeah, okay,
which
I guess that's true.
it's a plus if you like that kind of stuff. So yeah, just like you should know. Um, the thing else,
Do you know how to play badminton now?
no, not really. I mean, I know that if it's inside the line, it's in. Um,
Yeah, it really seems like a lawless sport. There really are no rules because you just hit it back and forth.
yeah, there didn't seem to be any specifics that we learned from this anime. And they also didn't really go too much into the playstyles of each of the characters until the very end of the show during the final match. That's when I feel like the final 3 episodes are when the sports anime becomes an actual sports anime in the traditional sense that you see a match and there's an audience commenting on the match and talking about the actual specifics of the plays and what's going on and stuff. But up until that point, you kind of just have to accept that whoever's the better player is a player that's scoring the most points. And they don't really explain how exactly they're scoring those points. They show it, I guess. Sometimes someone will hit it really, really hard and fast, and that'll obviously score a point. But a lot of the strategy, I feel like, wasn't dived into. And, in a sport that's in a sports anime that's only 13 episodes long, at this point I've come to accept that usually will not happen. But still, the fact that they showed that they could do it at the end of the show then makes me question why they didn't do it at other parts of the show. And I think the answer to that is this leans more into the anime than the sport. It's more about the drama of the characters framed within the sport than it is the actual sport itself, which is what we've come to expect from a lot of sports animes. But I do think there is a nice balance where you can actually use the sport as a device for character development and a source of drama and on and on and on. But I don't think they use it to its full effect.
They don't because I really think it's just the point of the series isn't about how you play badminton. It's why you play badminton, and that question trumps all sort of really kind of technique and actual play style. It's just not, and it's not about your play style. It's about what motivates you in order to keep playing the sport. And then that obviously that steps to what motivates you in life in order to get up every day. So it's like they kind of forwent any sort of technical detail in order for like bigger questions about why do you play badminton. To the show's success, to the show's detriment, I think it depends on the person.
Yeah, I think so. And to me, I like a little bit more of that sports meat stuff. So to me, it's to its detriment. But yeah, I think that's about it for discussing the sports. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
About the sport itself, no, just badminton, not as fun as tennis.
Not as fun as baby steps make tennis out to be.
Yeah.
Next, so we already discussed how good the animation was. The soundtrack, I think, was average. I did really like the opening.
I watched the opening every single time.
Yeah, same here. I think that was, to me, the best part of the show. That opening.
Yeah. I love that song, and I love the animation style. Like it's like the flashes of darkness along with, the cool art style of the opening and the song that you just want to sing along to every time is great.
It kind of reminded me of the Princess Hime song from Yowamushi Pedal.
Ah, you're totally right.
Hime.
Hime. Ah, you're absolutely right. It is the same thing. And that's great because that song's awesome too.
Yeah, it is. The intro really made me feel like I was going to be watching a nice, fun anime with great characters and there's going to be such cool matches and stuff, which is partially true.
If you watch, the opening the first time, then you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be fun. And then when the anime kind of starts changing a little bit, and then you actually go back and watch the opening, really in depthly, you're like, oh, they're actually really showcasing how it's matching its tone pretty well.
Really, I didn't even notice that. How so? Is it just the shots in the opening?
Yeah, the shots in the opening just give it a different sort of tone and
Yeah.
like throughout. So it's just like, oh, okay.
There is one section in particular that makes more sense the more you watch the show. So yeah, there's that. What else is there to talk about? You already touched on the themes for like the theme is mostly why do you play badminton, and that's a question that's asked over and over and over again, especially
Do you
near
play
the
for
end.
others? Do you play for yourself? Do you know, what's your reason to? Do you use it to encourage you? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, and that question is asked over and over and over again, and every person, as you could come to expect, has different reasons. And it is when these characters discover these reasons that their true self emerges, and their arc is essentially completed. So yes, it's a
Yeah.
very crucial component to the show.
All right, I think it's hard to talk more about it without going into spoilers. So unless there's anything else you want to start getting into the meat of this anime.
Yes, let's jump right in 3, 2, 1, go. Spoiler section in. Put your helmet on.
All right. So where to begin with this anime? Because it is.
We could go anywhere. There's so many directions to go in.
Just to start off, I will say what I said to you when I messaged you while we were watching it, like halfway through, is that Hanebado is not a sports anime. Hanebado is a horror anime that just has a protagonist that had a horrible traumatic PTSD event happen to her by a real shitty parent, and that fucked up her whole entire life and made her insane.
Yeah, it's definitely reminiscent of a psychological drama. And it's not what I signed up for. I think that's part of why I didn't like it.
Yeah, it was a huge change.
Yes, very huge. And I really appreciate the show for that. Despite me, I think maybe by now you can tell, I'm not a big fan of the show. Despite that, I really appreciate the risk that it took, because what I thought was going to be an average sports anime ended up being not an average sports anime. And I think more shows should kind of adopt that approach of maybe doing a twist that you don't expect. I mean, shows in general usually don't do that. When you have this sort of, when you have all these cute girls playing badminton, generally you would expect that the show would just be about that. But the fact that they kind of flipped it upside down, and not in the very first few episodes, but kind of halfway through the show, no less, I really respect that. But I don't think they stuck the landing.
Yeah, I think I like it when the show does. While watching the show, I thought of two different shows while watching this. The first I thought was Haiku, with its team element, and watching all these characters kind of have their own like flaws and even branch out to do like their own sort of deep personal subplots. Like I was thinking, it's like, wow, you never really saw that in a great anime like Haiku. So I liked that the show tried to dig deeper into these characters, and I think I've ever seen in a sports anime. I can't think of a sports anime that really tried to do this format before that we've seen. But then, of course, the other one I thought of was Ping Pong the animation, because it's literally almost the exact. There's very clear similarities from this and Ping Pong the animation, with the two characters, and one of them gets obsessed with the sport so bad that turns slightly cold and crazy.
Definitely.
While the other character who has a knee injury and is injured still has to work through that pain in order to bring that person out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, except this one really explores what it would take for someone to go crazy. Like Ping Pong never dove into Smile's like home story. Like we got glimpses of it when we talked about it. His parents probably abandoned him, and he's pretty cold. But it never discussed it. It was still a pretty fun anime. This one, Ayano's mom is probably the single worst anime character that I've ever seen in a sports anime. She just made such a shitty decision in life over something so trivial as badminton, and then she plays it off like no remorse whatsoever. She is just the worst, and she totally fucked up Ayano's life. And it's that sort of moment that I just laugh at, because like I love that it's just so fucked up. But it's because it's like I want to be surprised when I watch these sports animes, and this sort of deep psychological trauma really did surprise me in the end.
And that's what I wanted to get to was Ayano's mother. I feel so bad putting her as top girl in our video.
Yeah, we
'Cause
thought her
I
design
am
looked so
just-
cool.
I was so baffled by this character. I thought there was gonna be some legitimate secret as to why, like something that is something that's an honorable reason as to why she left. She had to leave her daughter and left her emotionally scarred. But no, that is not
Yeah,
true.
I kept waiting for that too.
Yeah,
Like it was any episode now, it's gonna be, this is why I left. Because I had to, because you were becoming too obsessed. Like, no, like even if that was like your motivation behind it, you still did it in such a fucked up way. And you never apologized.
Yeah, so let's discuss that. So her reason for leaving, she says, is because her daughter had talent for badminton, which was obvious to her. But then she found out and realized that she was doing it purely for her own sake, and
For the mom's sake.
for the mom's sake. And Iono's mom didn't want that. She wanted her talent to develop on its own, so that she could basically reach a level that would see her full potential, and that would bring her the most joy in life, the way that badminton brings joy in her own life. But first of all, this is really, really stupid, because if a child is doing something for you, the option of leaving should never be on the table. Like, what the fuck, dude? That's just stupid. That's like,
it's just so funny that it's over something like badminton.
Yes.
That's what it is. You abandoned your child because of badminton.
and to me, that means that wasn't the real reason. Either she's really dense, or she's really evil, and I think it's legitimately maybe selfish. She's very selfish. She left because sure, whatever, she wanted her daughter to get better at badminton, but no, I think it was because she loved badminton so much she didn't want to raise her daughter, and she went off and went
she
to a different
trained
country.
and the reason why it's not like she lost on her own accord either. She lost on that match because against Kirigaki because she was sick. Like she got a cold because Kirigaki infected her with a sickness,
Right.
and so she lost the match.
So-
and then the mom was like, "You suck at badminton. I'm leaving
And
now
I
forever."
I want to go back to that moment of Ayano being sick, but yeah, Ayano's mom leaves, and what's worse is she even ends up adopting, or at least pseudo adopting, another girl from another country who was also apparently really good at badminton. I mean, clearly so. She won some kind of trophy, and you see that in a picture in the first episode. So yeah, she's terrible. She left her child, then adopted another child, then came back and acted like everything was completely normal, and then she never says sorry to her child. And no one really berates her for the decision she makes. She never gets her comeuppance. She's the villain that got away. Even explaining
Elena
her...
kinda does.
Yeah,
But not in a-
so Irina confronts her about it. She asks her, "Why did you leave?" And after Ayano's mom confesses why she left, Irina doesn't say shit about it. She just listens intently and she looks visibly disturbed maybe, but then she comes right back inside to the gym and watches the rest of the match with her like nothing happened. Like,
And the mom was mean anyway. She left in the middle of her daughter's match to go get a soda.
yes. And it was obvious she was obviously not gripped by the match and what she was saying. And to top it off, once Ayano wins, at the very least, I guess she doesn't abandon her again, but she doesn't say sorry. She just says, "Hey, you can leave now with me and Connie, and we can all be a family, huh, kid?"
We can all play badminton together.
Yeah, and I think this would have been a great moment for Ayano to finally stand up for herself and assert her space, and kind of stand up and be like, what you did was really fucked up. I think that's what Ayano's mother deserves, is a good talking to, but she never even got that. Ayano basically passively says, "No, I need to be here for my team," and that's the end of her story.
Yeah. So if Ayano told off her mom, or if Yuchiko, if the mom got her comeuppance, would you have liked this more? Would that have changed everything? If it was just a moment where she's walking, she gets hit by a meteor, and then would that have changed?
Yes,
it for you?
because I think the relationship between Ayano and her mother is, I think, it's really the soul of the series. It's the source of Ayano's abandonment issues. It's the source of why she's so reluctant to get back into badminton, and also the source for why she wants to get back into it again. And the fact that there is no clear resolution between them at the end of this series it leaves a thread hanging so unsatisfyingly that I just can't help but not like this show. And yeah.
Let's talk about Ayano's arc for a second, because when the story starts off, I would never have guessed she was the protagonist, to be honest with you. Like when they're all standing around the table and she like chirps up on the side there, I was like, oh, I don't know who this is. She's not the main character. I thought it was like Elena or something. But then, as we learn, Ayano gets dragged to the badminton club and kind of not like forced to do it, but like bombarded enough to be like, okay, I'll be in this club.
Yeah.
Because Elena pushes her. But then she's like, okay. But then we learn that she didn't want to play badminton because she knew that she becomes a psychopath when she plays it. Because then she meets Karaka again. Wait,
No,
who
so
awakens
it's
her evilness?
Connie.
Is it Karaka or Connie?
Connie.
Connie awakens it. Oh, yeah, Connie does it.
Yeah, and so we were discussing earlier about how I thought she was one of the irredeemable characters. I also think she's irredeemable because, first of all, there's a weird flip in her character. Like when she finds out that Ayano is who she is, she then suddenly turns into kind of like your typical rival, like, oh yeah, we were raised by the same person and I'm better than you and all that. But the way she activated Ayano was that she said, oh yeah, Mama won't love you unless you're good at badminton, and you're not good at badminton, so she's not going to accept you anymore. And that was some cold-hearted shit. And that, again, is one of those instances where I was like, oh, this girl is actually straight up evil and mean. Like, there is nothing really... I mean, you can have some sympathy for her, but yeah, she's not someone to be liked. And yet, the next time we encounter her, when basically Connie and her team captain visit Ayano, they go out and they start hanging out like nothing happened. And then Connie has the gall to try and invite Ayano back into her family after what she just said. And in that instance, I was on Ayano's side. I was like, bitch, why are you trying to be nice to me? You're the one that fucking told me that Mama won't accept me unless I play good at badminton. So yeah, when Ayano was really cold to her during that little play date.
She didn't expect Ayano to be a psychopath, though. She really wanted family. She grew up in a household where it's just like, competition is good. This is my daughter who I love, who's really good at badminton. So now I must be really good at badminton in order for Mom to love me. Because, if this is her daughter, she must be really good. So that means I have to be really good. So when she says things like, Mama won't love you unless you're good at badminton, Connie's a victim of psychological abuse too, because she thinks the only way to get Mama's love is to beat the daughter and to be like, okay, now Mama will love me now. And then we can have our things when I'm sitting on the couch and listening to Mom hum while cooking. Because apparently, I guess you can just go to Sweden or wherever it is and just adopt a child or something. Like, I don't know how that works, because I don't know why. But I felt bad for Connie, because Connie didn't know any better. Connie didn't just grew up in this environment and really thought, because of how the mom acted, that they could really be friends and sisters. And that's really all she wanted. And then she got destroyed by Ayano, because Ayano was psychologically damaged as well. The mom's a horrible person.
Yes, the mom is a horrible person. She is a straight-up villain. And we don't really see villains of her type in sports animes typically. But yeah, she is definitely that. And she's probably worse than Midorima in Yowamushi
Yeah,
Pedal.
from Yowamushi. Oh, she's absolutely the worst villain we've ever seen in an anime.
I mean, Midorima's just kind of crazy and cutthroat, but at least he didn't like psychologically torment a child by abandoning them. And
because she couldn't play badminton well.
Yeah, and even Midorima had some sense of sympathy towards him when we learned about him and his backstory and his dying mother and all that. That was very interesting. Anyways, the show's about Hanebado. But yeah, so I know that even though like all she wanted was to be siblings, but why was that intention not made clear from the very beginning? Because she had a very antagonistic approach to Ayano until she beat her. And then after she beat her, she said those mean things to her, and that left Ayano very damaged. And then after that, like days or weeks after, I don't know the timeline, but then after that, Connie comes back to her and tries to give her an olive branch. And I feel like there's like a step missing in there. Like there's a transition in character that we didn't see, because the Connie that we saw in the beginning and in the first instance and the Connie we see in the second instance do not seem to be the same characters, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think of the moment that bridges the gaps between those two, but I cannot think of it.
And yeah, and that's most of what bothered me about her character specifically. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention really quickly was that scene where Kaoroko gets Ayano sick. So this is kind of I did you think that was a weird scene because it was a flashback from Ayano's perspective, and there was sad music playing in the background, but the moment itself seemed very comical to me. Like Karoko and Ayano were kind of tossing and turning in this like sleeping bag, and Karoko's kind of like, "I'm gonna make you sick," and it was just like, I don't know, for some reason I feel like they framed that very comically, like even the animation when they're like tumbling around and stuff. But then of course
it was funny, and then it led to a fucked up thing.
Yeah, and then ended up being really dark. I don't know. I thought that was weird that they kind of, I mean, it wasn't aligned, I guess, the emotions behind the scenes and the framing of it and whatnot. But
yeah, I just thought it was weird.
Karoko again, one of those, I think, irredeemable characters. Maybe not as bad as Connie. Well, no, actually,
What?
never mind.
Not as bad as Connie.
I know. I just talked about the scene of her getting sick, and I immediately forgot about it like an idiot. But yeah, no, she's bad. She's irredeemable, and she never gets her comeuppance either.
She doesn't have to give her come up because she's bad. Well, she does when Ayano just totally spanks her in front of everybody, and she loses her, support of her team, and then she gets the love of her team.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. She lost the game, but I feel like she still won in the end because her team was still there for her, and they still supported her for whatever reason. The same with Connie. I feel like Connie and Karoko were both very arrogant and haughty and disrespectful to the other team members and to the sport itself. If you remember, Connie was... what was it, Connie or Karoko? I forgot. There was one of the characters refused to play if her partner in the 2 versus 2 match would play with her.
I'm actually racking because like looking back over this, is like Kuroko and Connie are kind of blending together.
Yeah.
I forgot which one was which at the beginning there. Who it has to be Kuroko, right? Yeah. No, who wants to play on her own? It's not Connie because Connie comes from across.
Oh. I don't remember. I mean, that's the thing. They're both bitches, essentially.
We literally just watched this.
I know. Cut from the same cloth. Essentially, it doesn't matter because they both end up with the same result. They're mean, disrespectful to the team, but they still get the support of their team.
It's Connie. Wait, no, it's Connie because Connie has the Bangs coach, who goes and the coach is on the team, and then they go out. Remember, together. Like she's the one who goes out with them. She's like the Rico of Connie's team, like the captain.
Yes, I remember.
And then remember, because when Connie gets totally rejected by her family, she comes back by Ayano and gets destroyed. She comes back and all the team's waiting for her. It's like, oh, team's important.
Yeah. Yeah, so they still get the support of their team for whatever reason, even though they are totally bad people.
Man is genuinely good, and they help one another.
Right.
The only thing I'll say about that, the one that's completely unjustified, is why Hugh, I think her name is, short-haired blonde girl. Right. Why she stays on Ayano's side for like all of it.
Well, they needed someone on Ayano's side. It was her and I like to call her the Brock chick. The chick with the eyes are forever closed. Although one thing that I think that was really funny, I don't know if you noticed this, but when shit was getting serious and she gave the pep talk to Ayano when she was losing to Nagisa in the final match, her eyes were open.
There was a few moments of that in the show where her eyes were open.
Oh, really? Oh, damn. That was the only one that I noticed. I thought that was a special moment.
That was funny.
Well, yeah, that was funny. She looked completely different too. I thought it was like another character or something, but no, it was her.
It was her.
But
let's talk about that. I want to say about that. Would you cut out? I know the answer to the question of this, but do you think cutting out Hugh and those male badminton players would have made this better?
It would have freed up.
I know the answer.
Yes, I absolutely, and it would have freed up some time for the other subplots to develop more, or for them to be more focused. Yeah, they just were so boring. We didn't even watch any matches of them except for the dude. I think we watched one match of each of the dudes, and they had their own moments in the sun, but they really didn't contribute anything other than that.
I think it just applies into the theme of the show, which is, the important thing is, why do you play badminton? And explored it through all walks of life, through the men's, through Hugh, who thinks it's because that was like a kind of funny moment, like the subplot of her thinking she's in love with the guy, but then she's like, I think I like you, but actually, I think I just like badminton. Like, like that's it. Like that was funny. But and then the moment where the guy's losing because his friend is way more talented than he is, and he's still losing no matter what. He looks at his friend, and the friend gives him like the fist pump up in the air, like to like while he's walking away. It's like that was a sweet moment.
Yeah, that was. I guess they were proper sports anime moments in and of themselves. That's the kind of stuff that you would see in the sports anime that we thought we were going to see. I guess it's like remnants of an old script, I guess.
It would have been hilarious if the main focus of this was like, I keep calling her Hugh, even though I don't know that's her name.
She has a little ponytail, right?
Yeah, the one who yeah. If like those three, like her, and it was like actual love triangle between the guy and the two guys. Like if those three were like the main three, and then like everything else, like Ayanu's psychological damage and torture and Arigaki's like injury just happened off to the side. Like if those are just side plots.
Those are the side plots.
To like the main story of her doing it. So that'd be fun.
So it's kind of the inverse. It's like mostly lighthearted with tinges of darkness that we don't really get.
What's wrong with her? Oh yeah, her mom fucked her up as a child. And now she looks like a Titan from Attack on Titan with that evil chompy face.
Yeah, I will say I think the use of Ayano's eyes as a narrative device were very interesting, and they kind of showed the stages of her growth. You know, kind of cute and innocent, and then they kind of become dead and cold as she's playing badminton efficiently.
It was so scary.
But in the end, when she played Nagisa, they kind of became like, they look like her mother's eyes, essentially, but also more intense. So it was kind of like that was her final evolution, was like this scary, damaged character, but very resolved and focused on the moment, which I thought was really cool.
The design of it was really cool because like the mom and Ayano really looked very similar to each other.
They were like the Pokemon. Neat. They were Pokemon. The pre-evolution. Yeah. She was a pre-evolution to her mama.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to mention was this. There is a slight recurring theme of teamwork. Actually, maybe not slight. It's throughout the whole show. But
yeah, teamwork's important.
Definitely. But man, I was just gonna say how maybe they didn't hit on that very well, but maybe they did. Maybe because. I guess what I'm trying to say is I never got the sense that the team was actually a cohesive unit. Like to me, it seemed like each character had their own miniaturized like microcosm of the team. For example, Nagisa had Rico, like they're a team, and Ayano had Elena, and they're a team. But technically, they're all part of the same team, and yet there doesn't seem to be cohesiveness within that team. There's no web of interactions between each of the members that made it feel real and interesting to watch. It was mostly just pairings. So I think that's another complaint, is this overarching teamwork, this overarching theme of teamwork could have been implemented better.
Yeah.
What else was I gonna say? I don't know. I think that's it. I think mostly the show has irredeemable characters. It's a deep psychological drama, but it also surprised me in ways I didn't expect. But overall, I did not like it for those reasons.
But you would prefer if a show took more risks like this than not.
I just want the implementation of it to be good. And like I said, I don't think they maybe it's not the implementation. Maybe it is just a personal thing, because they intentionally left these characters irredeemable, and they intentionally left these evil people off the hook. So maybe the implementation is fine. Maybe the story is just not for me. Although I do want to discuss a little bit more about the similarities between this and Ping Pong the animation, because like you said, I think this show is very clearly inspired by that show. There are moments in this that harken back to that, and also there are rivalries that harken back to that. There's the whole knee injury, there's the whole hard work versus talent trope theme that goes throughout this thing. But as you know, I love Ping Pong the animation, and it is the superior sports anime. To me, it's like the gold standard of this length of anime, 11 to 13 episodes. Yeah. And I guess the best way I can explain my distaste for this show is explaining why I like Ping Pong the animation and directly comparing the two. So in Ping Pong the animation, they focused more on a set of characters, and yes, they had side characters, but their subplots were very small and unobtrusive to the main story. They focused mainly on Peiko, Skimoto, Kong, and the dragon. I forgot his actual name. Starts with a K. Anyways,
Kazuma?
Kazuma. Yes, these are the four characters, and they all have their own hangups, and they, at least a couple of them have very deep psychological. They all have their own psychological pain, but two of them in particular are damaged in their own way. I think I like that one more specifically though because their storylines are actually complete and fleshed out in a way that I think this one maybe intentionally leaves some hooks.
Yeah,
Some
as you
threads.
said, it's like because it's still going, so it's obviously there's enough for a second season.
Yeah, and maybe that's what irks me the most is that maybe these bad guys will get their comeuppance in a future season. But as a season one storyline on its own, I have to say that I am not satisfied with it. And
Okay. I think what the main difference between Ping Pong and this, if I had to boil it down, is warmth. Like, there's a really sense of warmth throughout all the characters in Ping Pong, and these characters were really flawed, and you have to really like those things and really search for some, redeemable qualities for each of these characters in order to really root for them. Because these ones, you weren't really rooting for them. You're just following the story as it goes on. While Ping Pong, you really wanted characters to either succeed or fail. And like in this one, the only one who I really wanted to succeed a lot is Riku in her match. That was like the only time where I was just like, I really want her to pull through.
Mhm.
But I think other than that, I was like, this is, I'm watching the outcome of these matches without being fully invested in it, but still enjoying looking at these matches and from like a story perspective, respecting where it's going.
You're right. This is I think you nailed it on the head. In Ping Pong animation, there is a sense of sympathy for the characters, and a sense that it's building towards some moment of triumph. And when it gets there, it's so satisfying. But in this show, it's like watching a train wreck. And it's like watching a bunch of shit gone wrong because of shit that happened in the past, and exploring that storyline. And I guess it does come down to a sense of personal preference. If you like a show that deals with really dark themes and with characters that have deep flaws that we never really see rectified, then this could be for you. The other thing I wanted to say was the finale. I thought was really good though. The 3-episode finale between Ayano and Nagisa, that was top tier sports anime stuff.
Yeah, that's everything I wanted to it, where it's just like pulse pounding, really well done stylistic flourishes into a really intense final match.
It was a very intense final match, and the psychological, emotional stakes were there. And again, Karoko and the audience is explaining exactly what's going on, why each person is doing really well, like what their strategy is. It was the most sports anime moments of the show. And they left it all towards the end, which again made me disappointed for the rest of the show because I wanted to see more of that leading up to it. What
did you think of the stylistic, like the flourish, like like when we couldn't see what they were saying, but it's like they're breathing over it as it like devolved into like a whiteness.
Very good. I liked it a lot. Again, I think that was one of the moments that kind of harkens back to Ping Pong the animation. There were moments when they had like text on the screen, like, why do you play badminton? And then they like flashed each of the reasons before each of the characters. That also reminded me of Ping Pong the animation because they kind of did something similar in the finale for that show. Not exactly the same thing, but yeah, stylistically, I think they borrowed a lot of inspiration from that show. I mean, it's another paddle-based sports anime.
Paddle-based sport,
and probably one of the better ones. Go ahead.
So here's my question for you. What if you had never seen Ping Pong the animation? What would you think of this?
I mean, I honestly can't say for sure. I can only speculate, but I still think I wouldn't like it. I think for me personally, my likes lean towards shows with characters that I can actually like and root for. And if one of the main characters is and I think Ayano is the main character of the show, if the main character is not someone I can root for, then what is the point? Because if I don't really care about what happens to this person, then I feel like there's no real reason to watch the show.
But I think that's because she's not supposed to be. I think that she's not supposed to be likable. Like she does that flip into pure antagonist territory where she looks fucking scary throughout like most of it, and she loses all of her humanity for it. And then it drives home the fact that Nagasa's the one who's got to bring her out of it, along with all the other characters. Like I don't think we're supposed to be rooting for Ayane.
I understand. Like I said, I understand that they were intentionally written to be unlikable, and also that they intentionally left these deep flaws out in the open and made it potentially to where people would have no sympathy for them. I just think, me personally, it doesn't work for me. So yeah,
Okay.
I think this show boils down to personal preference. Although the last thing I'll say about the finale is that it was so good that it almost made up for the rest of the show. Like
Yeah.
it tied everything together in a really brilliant way. But then it made me, when I just sit down and think about the show as a whole, I remember all these other moments and why I don't like it. But yeah, the finale is excellent though. I will say that.
Yeah, I really do. I agree with you there.
All right. I think that's all I have to say in the spoilers section.
Yeah, about the spoilers, so I think we dove into it pretty well.
All right. Well, I guess we can leave the spoiler section in 3, 2, 1. We are out of the spoilers section. Hello. Welcome.
Welcome back. If you somehow, for some reason, skipped the spoiler section.
I guess we can go right into the ratings, the not ratings, whether or not we like it,
MVPs.
recommend it, the MVPs. Kobe, who's your MVP?
I think our MVPs are going to be the same. It's Riku. She's the character who is just the best supporting player all around. She has a fantastic match in the beginning episodes that I think is one of the top matches of the show. Her character herself is just always solid and just likable in a cast of characters who are flawed pretty deeply. So Riku is best girl.
Yes,
an MVP.
Completely agree. Best girl, MVP. She's a beacon of light amidst all these dark and flawed characters. So I appreciate her presence in the show.
And then my overall ending thoughts about this anime is that it was an interesting watch, to be sure. It made me feel things, maybe not all positive things, but I would so much rather watch this show than a lot of the sports anime shows that we've watched in the past that are just completely forgettable. Because I won't forget this one because of the story elements in it that make it so different than any other sports anime we've watched. And I like those sports elements. I like those elements kind of more than you did. But there were just some parts of it that just I don't think I could get behind completely. But overall, I thought this was generally solid anime, and it could have been great if there was just there's some key moments that were changed.
Yeah, I think liking this anime will boil down to your personality and who you are and what you expect out of a show. Like I said, I will say basically this show ended up not being the show that I signed up for. And I think that has to do partly with why I don't like it. If you watch the opening and you're expecting a happy-go-lucky sports anime with cute girls playing badminton, you'll get that partially. But you'll also get something that you won't completely expect, and it might not be good. So personally, of the paddle-based sports animes we've seen, I put this at the bottom. I would strongly recommend you watch Ping Pong the Animation or Baby Steps instead of this one. But if you really like a twist of things and you really like a breakaway from the standard sports anime genre, and then in that case, I highly recommend it. But for me personally, I did not like this show.
All right.
Well, that's it then, eh?
You sound like a robot saying that. I do think that's it. That's a good wrap up. This was a fun discussion. I like it when we can. And what I like about the show is that it warrants a kind of a deeper discussion. Besides, this part was good, or this part was bad. Like there's a lot to talk about because the show is kind of different.
It's very different. There's yes, you're right. It is a show to be discussed, and for that, I appreciate it a lot. So yeah, Kobe, want to close us off?
All right, you were listening to this on Nerd Plays. Like, comment, and subscribe to this. This was a pod. I don't know if you could find this podcast in other places as of now. Like maybe you can, maybe you can't. We're still deciding. But yeah, thanks for listening very much. Yeah. Anything else, Jeff?
No, that's all. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for like, comment, subscribing if you do that. But
If you
otherwise,
do that,
we
we'll find
appreciate
out.
you listening anyway, either way.
Of course, and we'll try to figure out what anime to do next for next time on Anime Ricochet.
All right, see you then. Bye.